Hip internal rotation is really how we start to unlock power in the throwing motion, but also in other athletic movements. This video, we're going to talk about hip internal rotation. Number one, we got to talk about giving yourself a brief little assessment of internal rotation, as well as acquiring some more range. And we have to really be careful when we start to look at internal rotation, because a lot of times people have bony blocks. And if you have a bony limitation in internal rotation, it's going to be tougher for you to acquire. Then we're going to talk about strengthening through that internal rotation range of motion, which is often the most important component, because we have to be able to develop power, co-contraction, and develop a rotational movement out of a rotational movement of the lower extremity. We'll talk a little bit more about that in this video. Here we go. Max Wardell over at athletics.com. Welcome back, guys. Let's get into the first assessment technique right here. We're going to go through two quick assessments here for hip internal rotation. We want to see approximately 30 degrees in this active motion, 40 maybe being more optimal in terms of internal rotation. You'll see I'm a little bit limited. I have a bony deformity in this hip known as a cam deformity, and you may have that as well, which, as you can see on the screen, is a little bit of thickening, added bone around the femoral neck and head. That's going to limit how much motion you could get inside of the socket. And you may have that. If you get some pinching inside of the hip, that's probably an indication. That's why we don't want to overly stretch this thing, but we definitely want to start to increase strength through the range we do have. I did have surgery on the right hip. You can see I get a little bit further. So I'm sitting up nice and tall, 2 fists between the knees, rotate the whole ankle and lower leg out as far as I can. 30 degrees being optimal. You see I have some rotation, but I don't have a ton. Sometimes you'll see something like this where one leg can't go at all, or both of them get only a couple degrees. Those are cases where we really want to start to work on internal rotation if we possibly can. From there, you can drop right down, knee up, rotate. We like to see 45 degrees of pelvic rotation, 45 degrees this way, 90 degrees here, 90 degrees here, 45 degrees rotation of my pelvis. Sometimes we'll have people hold a pole and hold that pole and rotate with it. So that gives us our hip extension assessment when we're in hip extension and when we're in hip flexion, to give us a internal rotation diagnostic objective test. From there, we start to work on acquiring more and then strengthen that range. If you have a bunch, go to the middle of the video where we're going to start to go into the exercises, because you need to start to strengthen that range if you want to have power when you load your hip during a throw or during a swing, even during a golf swing. One of our favorite hip internal rotation stretches is the lower extremity sleeper stretch. So what I'm doing here is I'm laying on my right side and I'm letting my right leg, depending on the position that's tight. If it's tighter in extension, I come out here. Tighter in flexion, I come out here. No pinching in the front. If you're having pinching in the front, you're probably at the limit of your range, and you may want to roll back and find that position. I have guys do this right off the couch, and they're just letting this right leg hang to the floor, or whichever leg is restricted, just hanging down to the ground. Sleeper stretch, you hang out here for a couple minutes, then you go back, retest. From there, we can start to add some other variations. So if you don't feel like you're getting a good stretch in on the sleeper variation off the couch, you can always go into this overlapped pretzel stretch. You find that position where you feel some stretch, maybe into the buttock region, maybe up underneath that buttock region. No pinching in the front, no pinching deep in the groin. And I kind of use my left leg here to stretch my right knee into hip internal rotation. Find a comfortable position, do sets of 30 seconds, do a set of 2 minutes. And just kind of stretching that. You maybe just go for 5-10 seconds before you go into some of the exercises. From there, you want to start to train and strengthen that range. So that's what we're going to go into here. So I've got my super band or my jump stretch band here, and we're going to use this to start to pull us into that internally rotated position, and then we're going to resist and go out of it. So what we've got here is our band at about waist height. Let me throw it on, show you what we're looking at. Okay, so what we got here is our band around my left leg. I'm going to show you guys the right hip for demonstration purposes. It's around that right leg. I can grab this if I need but I'd like to not have to. Now, if I just let loose, the band's gonna pull me open this way. So I actually have to pull into internal rotation. I'm trying to not use my hand here. I'm pulling with the hip musculature. You'll find that you get a little burn on the outside of the hip. So knees up, pull, pull, pull. And I can do holds. Pull, 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 pull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep the big toe on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does this look familiar? This is our load position. Now, I want to actually do the opposite. This band is now going to pull me into hip internal rotation. Get it up around the glute. It's going to try to pull me in. And the farther out I go with the band, the more it makes me work. So I start up by the glute. Here. Balance if I need it. And I'm going to turn out, let it pull me in. Turn out, let it pull me in. Out, let it pull me in. Now you're going to feel more burn in the back part of the butt. Now if I want to make it really hard on myself, it's going to pull me really far in. And out. And out. And out. So that's how I start to train it. Then I like to train some stability in that pattern with an Aqua Bag exercise. Let me show you that. So I got my aqua tube, my aqua bag filled with water. We got to start to train that internal rotation in a more dynamic fashion. So the easiest way to start doing this is just get in your split stance. Now we're working on it in that more closed down position where you're in flexion. And I'm going to start to, and that makes me work really hard. And then I come out. Now the faster that I do this, the harder I work. So the harder I work there. So all I'm doing is I'm just turning. I'm keeping good posture. And I do it there. Then if I want to work on hip internal rotation, I go right up to there, turn everything, hold, 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 hold. So I'm developing stability in that pattern. Lose it, start to fatigue, and you're out. Switch legs. Chest can rotate, hips can rotate. I have to stabilize and co-contract all of the hip musculature because I'm in that position. Then I can start to train that very same thing in a more dynamic fashion. So now I can start to go from the hip up and across. Up and across. Keep my big toe on the floor. Try to get as much rotation as I can. Lose control a little bit, that's all right. You'll see, where do I have deficits? Probably more on my right side a little bit. So from a range of motion perspective, I have less here. I'm also more stable on that left side. As a pitcher, what I've developed is, hey, good rotation away from the target, but better stability on this leg. So to balance myself out, I know that that's what I'm training. So you kind of have a nice little progression. Assess yourself in a flexed position, assess yourself in an elongated hip extended position. Start to train that a little bit through your side-lying sleeper stretch. If you can't get a good stretch there, use your crossover pretzel stretch. Then start to add a little bit of resistance into that motion. Out here, either pulling in, working out of the motion, or working into the motion while it works to pull you out. Then I like the idea of using aqua bags to start to train you to acquire that range and have a little bit more power. Then you can start to really work on moving quick in and out of those positions. And you could do the same thing with an upside down kettlebell just to introduce a little bit less stability. Stand on an AirX pad. There's a lot of ways we can scale this, but this is our hip internal rotation progression for individuals who have either limited flexibility into internal rotation or limited motor control and stability in internal rotation and out of internal rotation. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up, make sure to subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video.